Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PAK Dem, Political Cartooning for Democracy and Freedom. I am Alan of Dakila, and I will be your host for today's event. So PAK Dem is an iteration of Politikal Comics for Democracy, and now it's on its fifth year, beginning in 2020. So this year, Politikal Comics dares to extend its space to international artists and more regional spaces with 4 regional packs and live cartooning sessions. Today's roundtable discussion gathers cartoonists from around the world to converse on the power of cartooning in upholding and promoting justice, democracy, and peace. We are so delighted to be with fellow artists in this critical conversation on the convergence of art and advocacy for freedom. As part of the 12th edition of the Vista Human Rights Festival with the theme Especulación, PAK Dem speculates for a future while subjecting the present to creative scrutiny and resistance. So yesterday, we opened the Manila leg of PAK Dem in an exhibit at Common Makati City that features 31 artists from around the world of cartooning. So the exhibit runs from September 28 to October 5, 2024. So if you would like to visit it, please feel free to do so and bring your friends and just have a discussion. Today is a very special day because we are honored to be in the presence of some of the members of Cartooning for Peace and Pitik Bulag. They travel from different parts of the world to share their art and insights in a conversation about using creativity for resistance. This event is made possible with the generous support of the French Embassy in Manila and through our partnership with Cartooning for Peace, an international network of dedicated press cartoonists who use humor as a tool to promote cultural understanding and in defending freedom. We are also proud to have Rappler as our long-standing ally in the fight for press freedom. Over the years, Dakila and Rappler have continuously collaborated on initiatives like Move PH, Facts First Coalition, Lighthouse, and Press for Freedom, working together to champion truth and accountability. So I would like everyone to just give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Okay, so we have a lot of exciting things to talk about today. Without further ado, to officially open our program, it's my honor to introduce Lenny Velasco, the Secretary General of Dakila and the Executive Director of Activista. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Lenny Velasco.
Good afternoon, everyone. When cartoonist and creator of Peanuts, Charles Schulz, once wrote in one of his strips, "No one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them," he was far from kidding. For years, the art of political cartooning and comics have been vital in exposing society's ills in more ways than one. Often in a comedic manner to mask our painful reality with giggles and laughter, cartooning as a form of expression was never afraid to critique our humanity's evolving context. In the Philippine context, Tumindig, that raised fist avatar icon by comic artist Tarantadong Calbo, became a symbol of resistance at a time of state repression that silenced our people. Press freedom and our freedom of expression continue to be attacked at all fronts. The Philippines remains to be one of the world's most dangerous places for journalists, and seeing journalists threatened or killed has always been descriptive of the nation's state of the press. It has been said time and again that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. But what is vigilance if not an act of speculation born out of critical thinking? And to speculate, to be vigilant, is to imagine alternatives, question the status quo, and ask the simplest yet most radical question: what if things were different? It is in this context that the 12th Vista Human Rights Festival with the theme Especulación presents the third year of Politikal ang Komiks with PAK Dem, Political Cartooning for Democracy and Human Rights, in partnership with Cartooning for Peace and Rappler. PAK Dem is a series of events happening in Cebu and here in Manila this year, exploring and solidifying political cartooning as a powerful tool in factual storytelling and advocating for freedom, justice, and democracy. To foster a society grounded in truth and accountability, we must revitalize trust in the media and cultivate critical thinking. As short-form content dominates the digital landscapes, cartoons emerge as a powerful tool to inform, raise awareness, and challenge inequalities and corruption. This weekend, we see the fruition of an important collaboration. We are proud to be one with Cartooning for Peace, and with Rappler, of course, our long-standing partner in holding the line for rights and freedom. We're also grateful for the French Embassy for supporting this initiative. In this 12th edition of the Activista Human Rights Festival, we invite everyone here to speculate with us and let our collective speculation be our act of resistance so that we can collectively tend to hope. That even though the future seems bleak, we can imagine that a progressive democratic future is possible. Welcome to PAK Dem, Political Cartooning for Human Rights and Democracy. And as we always say in Dakila, well, no art, no poem, or for this instance, no political cartoon can change the world. It can change the way we view the world. Because true revolution begins in the imagination. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lenny. So those were very profound words. And where the future seems bleak, ika nga, to speculate is to resist. And one thing I really liked from what she mentioned is to ask yourself the question, what if things were different? And what exactly can we do to help make that difference a reality? So thank you again very much, Ms. Lenny. And if you guys aren't familiar yet with Dakila, Dakila is a collective of artists, activists, and development workers that harness the power of creativity and art to promote human rights, social justice, and freedom. By engaging communities through films, performances, and other forms of art, Dakila continues to inspire critical thinking and mobilize action towards building a more just society. So if you would like to join Dakila, just tap the people in the organization there. And again, thank you so much for that introduction. So now let's go on and produce another important person for today's event. It's a privilege to introduce the president of Cartooning for Peace, an international network of press cartoonists based in Paris with members from around the world. So CFP promotes dialogue and understanding through the creative art of cartooning using satire and illustrations to defend democracy and freedom of expression while challenging intolerance and injustice with wit and artistry. We're honored to witness their incredible talents firsthand during yesterday's exhibit opening, where they brought their work to life through live cartooning. With a deep commitment to inspiring critical thought, please join me in welcoming KAK.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. I don't know. I'm a bit jet lagged still, so don't. Sorry if. Yeah, I'm very honored to be here. Not only here in the Philippines, which is already an honor, because even if Cartooning for Peace is an international association with more than 300 cartoonist members in 75 countries, we are based in Paris, which is far away. And we don't have that many opportunities to come to the Philippines, to come to this part of the world, although we were here already, I think, in 2015. So it's been a long time. So that's firstly an honor. It's also an honor to be in Rappler's headquarters, because from the part of the world where we are, even if you think about France, you think about Germany, you think peaceful democracies, right? Well, yes, but we also have the same problems of making sure that our media remain independent, that they keep fighting for a truthful information, for fact-checking. And so even if many fundamental rights are guaranteed in our countries, this one, the right to be properly informed, is something that we have to be very vigilant about. And we know it's something that is very precious to the heart of the Rappler's founders and to the fight they're doing, being independent, speaking about facts. And so it's a symbol. Being here for us is also a symbol of this fight for liberty, for freedom of speech, and for people getting really informed about what's happening. This is the fundamental, I think, fight of all of us. We are very proud also because I have to thank all the people who helped us. But firstly, I would like to start with people who are actually making things happen. And these people are the whole Dakila team, so I want to thank them. I won't name all of them because there's a lot of people working for Dakila. It's very impressive. I'm very impressed. It's a big structure, really. So thank you very much for what you're doing. It's incredible. Thank you, Zach. Among all the cartoonists we're going to present today, there's one, I'm not sure we'll see him on the image, so I have to mention him. It's Zach, cartoonist from the Philippines. Maybe you know him. He was the one carrying the burden of, I think he deserves an applause, absolutely, because he was the one coordinating, giving us the idea. And the first time we spoke about it was 1 year ago. It's a short period of time. The first time we had the idea, he was in our offices in Paris, and I think it was Barbara, our head manager, who's not here, who told him, oh, you see, that was 2015, a few pictures, we were in the Philippines. It would be nice to do it again. That was 1 year ago. And you can imagine what it means to set up such an event in just 1 year. So congratulations to him, to the Dakila team, and to our sponsors, and more than sponsors, supports. And I mean the French embassy in the Philippines, Madame Marie Fontanelle, Madame l'Ambassadeur, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for France, who clearly supported us, really, financially. And that's, you need money to do things sometimes. You have to acknowledge that. Even a cartoonist can say that. So thank you very much. This is really a big opportunity for us. And so you will see several cartoonists from the Philippines, but also we thought of giving it, let's say, a regional dimension by inviting 3 cartoonists from other countries. I would say in the vicinity, but it's a far vicinity. It's Australia. So we have Kathy Wilcox, who you will see later. We have Stelina from Taiwan, and we have Parish from India, who all came to meet you, to speak and to share, and I'm almost done, and to share the topic we have to share, because you would say being a cartoonist in France, in Taiwan, in India, in Australia, and in other countries has nothing, it's nothing in common. Actually, yes, it is. Yes, it is. The thing we have in common is we are fighting because we want to make sure that every single individual in this room, outside this room, in this city, in this country, on this planet, every single individual has the right to give their opinion whenever they want, and not to be threatened because they did so. If I had to sum up what's the purpose of a cartoonist, it's basically that's what we're fighting for. And then, of course, we have different problems. But the core fight is that one. That's what gathers us. So we will all speak about that. I'm really proud and honored to be here. And that's pretty much all I had to say as an introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your inspiring words, Kak. So now let's move on with our program. It's a great honor to introduce Her Excellency Ambassador Marie Fontanelle, the Ambassador of the French Embassy in the Philippines and Micronesia. So the French Embassy has been a key supporter of Activista Human Rights Festival, Political and Comics activities from our exhibition yesterday in Comuna Makati, which will also have its Cebu exhibition and Roundtable on October 1. So we're so grateful for their continued support and commitment to human rights and the freedom of expression. Again, please join me in welcoming Ambassador Marie Fontanelle to share her message of support.
magandang hapon. Very happy to be here. Each time I come in the Rappler headquarters, it's always very energetic, and it reminds me as ambassador how important, if I needed to be reminded of the liberty, press freedom, and what you are doing here. Congratulations for that. We are always very happy to support initiatives that put freedom of expression and press media on the forefront of the news, I would say. It's top priority for us in our diplomacy all over the world. My previous posting, to share with you, it's been a year that I'm here in the Philippines, but before I was representing France in the Council of Europe, which is a European organization dedicated to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And we had already a long-standing partnership in the Council of Europe with Cartooning for Peace, because all over Europe, even in our countries, as was just said, we have to fight, and you have to ensure that in the long run, journalists, cartoonists will continue to be able to do their job. And doing your job is making you sometimes human rights defenders, so it's even the more and more important. So here in the Philippines, of course, this fight for promotion, I would say, before talking about fight, promotion of human rights, democracy, freedom of expression is still really high on my agenda at the French embassy, and we are always very happy to support as much as we can. Sometimes it's not much, but at least political support, I think, is always very important. So you can be sure that here in Manila and also in Cebu, but I would like also to imagine that maybe in the future we could do that also in other places in the Philippines. We will still be here to stand and defend the freedom of expression, and particularly cartoonists' jobs. Thank you so much for inviting me. I won't be too long because I'm really looking forward to listening to the guests of honors today. Thank you for listening to me. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much again, Ambassador Marie, especially for your support in making this event possible. We're sincerely grateful. We'd like everyone to know, by the way, like as any meaningful conversation, we also offer free food. We offer free food, sandwiches, and refreshments. It's made possible by our festival partner, Silingan Coffee. So someone here, Miss Grace and her team, they're there. So if you taste anything good in your food, it's because of their hard work. So please help yourselves to the refreshments. And Silingan Coffee is a social enterprise that provides employment for families of extrajudicial killing victims through their cafe and their Courageous Hope van, a project in collaboration with Dakila and its artists in co-designing the third van by families of EJK victims, who run the coffee shop. So the van isn't here today, unfortunately, but it will travel across Metro Manila, stopping at schools, communities, and churches, and hopefully it sparks dialogue and discussion about the most pressing issues in our country. So we've been supporting Silingan Coffee through this festival, and we hope that you will also support them in their endeavors. So please feel at home and help yourselves with refreshments throughout the venue. Cutting it to the chase, talking more about Dakila. So Dakila was established at this route, bringing advocacy and arts for social change. So I know when we talk about political issues, the atmosphere usually tends to become too serious, and it's kind of hard to talk about it, especially when people are arguing with facts. But what we love about Dakila is if people won't listen to facts, we want them to listen to their emotions. Because through art, people will listen to their emotions, and emotions will never lie. So that's what the Activista Human Rights Festival is all about. And it actually happens annually. It's a festival of arts and human rights. And our goal is to mainstream social issues close to the gut level in the hope of fostering heroes that will facilitate social transformation. I'm actually a product of Dakila. I started in Dakila in 2018. So I think I was in college So, just a little short story anecdote. I was part of our school's film organization. We were doing PR stuff, and then I just saw Dakila's email for their Heroes Hub, and they were inviting us. For some reason, I don't know why they didn't bring it up, but I saw it in the email, and I told our higher up, I was like, "Hey, can I join this event?" They were like, "Okay, sure." And now I've been with them for how many years now? Like almost 6 or 7. Sorry, math is not my strongest suit. But yeah, it's one of the best decisions I've made. So if you would like to be part of that movement, maybe consider joining Dakila. So this afternoon, we will probe the crucial role of political cartooning as a tool for factual storytelling and as a space for speculating a hopeful future. So later at the roundtable discussion, we will be joined by 5 artists who share the same passion for arts and advocacy. But before that, let's first hear from Pitik Bulag, a collective of Filipino artists and advocates dedicated to promoting press freedom and combating disinformation in the Philippines. Through their powerful visuals and satirical work, Pitik Bulag has been at the forefront of raising awareness about the media's challenges and fighting the spread of false information. So please join me in welcoming Pitik Bulag as they shed light on the state of press freedom in the Philippines and discuss their ongoing initiative to counter this information. Everyone, please give a warm round of applause for our very own cartoonist, Paul Roca, and cartoonist, Zach.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Paul Eric Roca. And here with me is Zach, cartoonist Zach. So we'll be discussing cartoons that we have done that are tackling important issues in the Philippines. So I'll be starting, and then Zach will follow. So, the first cartoon that this one is about EJK. So I have an image of the former president. So his mouth is open and he's smiling, and his teeth are made of tombstone. So this is my symbol for the EJKs. He also had this pronouncement that he said, I don't know if it's correct. So he said that, kill the criminals and I will protect you. So this is a very important evidence in his role in the drug war. So as you can see, a lot of killings has been, I think it's more than 20,000 as of now. I am not sure the update of the victims of EJK. So this is how I depicted it. So the next cartoon that I'm going to show is, also about the drug war. This image based on a very famous image of a photographer. I think it's Rafi Lerma. The one about that shows a mother holding his son who was just killed, and it was a very powerful image, wherein it mirrors the Pieta, the one done by Michelangelo, where the mother is holding his dead son. And I made the tears into the outline of a dead body, and with a label of adik wag tularan, which is roughly translated into drug addict, don't imitate. So they have this makeshift sign that they put on the body for them to, make a very, very image of a person that is very, very bad. So this image is a very sad and very frightful image for me. So I did and made this cartoon. Next one is this one is about the killings of journalists. I think there are in the Philippines there are a lot of killings and media and I think the number of media or journalists killed around more 200 as of 1986. So this is about guns, golden goons. You know how they stop the media from telling the truth, the press. So the face of the man is in the form of a gun. So they intimidate the media so that they cannot report. So the next cartoon that I'm going to show, this one is about press freedom. I made a cartoon of a newspaper and a hand of a troll. So the troll is symbolized with a hand of a very sinister hand with cursors for the cursors for as claws that he's trying to destroy the press in the symbol of a newspaper. In doing so, it's tearing apart the paper, but then it forms into a dove as a symbol of peace. And so the next one, this is about trolls. So the man or some sinister person is controlling the trolls with his nose as a form of a key, the wind-up toys that, and with the symbol of a dollar sign, and also his long nose is a symbol of Pinocchio, which depicts the lies that he's. So I think you're next. So that's all I guess, and the next person to talk is Zach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Those 5 cartoons shown by Roca illustrates the overall political climate of the Philippines, and if not decades, but in the last recent years. So actually inspired because on the same year when I was accepted by Cartooning for Peace organization in 2019 and got inspired on how they provided support with cartoonists, not only in Europe but also with abroad. So together with Isantasang Kape, we co-founded a small collective of cartoonists we call Pitik Bulag. So Pitik Bulag in English, it means like it's a game wherein you flick against those who are pretending to be blind, and that's how cartoons it can help in just doing the pitik towards those who are pretending to be blind. So we are composed of different the veteran cartoonists and also aspiring cartoonists, and we want to provide space, new space, and thinking of new ways to make cartoons more accessible to the people. And in 2022, we collaborated with Facts First PH, which is also headed with Rappler, and it's 100 plus organizations that it's a coalition to help fight disinformation. So we, so what we did, so we released around 200 plus comic strips, animation, and animated cartoons and political cartoons. We converted we converted fact checking into comics, because we believe that using satire and also humor, it makes the fact checking more more memorable. So I think this, for example, so we know the Pinocchio, when they lie, when Pinocchio lies, the ones that gets longer is the nose. So this one, so it's different. It's the chin. So we first made cartoons about politics related, election related, because it was a part of the 2022 election. But we then realized that we need to make more the fact checking more relatable in the daily lives of the people. That's why we featured health related fact checking, like the medicines. And aside from cartoons, so we tried to find new ways, in providing space to aspiring political cartoonists. So we made animated reels, like cartoons, and also provided with the Lighthouse, with the Rappler also. So we started posting political cartoons, and as well as fact-checking comics. And with the new launch Rappler Communities app, so we held a contest, wherein we asked the members of the community chat to submit their cartoons. This is the contest we made about how do you make journalism, how does journalism help marginalized or communities, those communities that deserves to be heard. So our challenge, is a challenge, not only to cartoonists but also to journalists. How do we make the topics of human rights, transcend or go from, to break, the echo chamber that's been happening, especially in the social media. And I think this is a good starting point, one of the starting points for this roundtable, when the members of Cartooning for Peace and also the Rappler will talk about is, how do we make the people realize that the press freedom is related to, the in solving and also helping in solving social inequalities, and also with corruption. It was going back to the question, nakakain ba yung press freedom? So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for that very insightful presentation, Roca and Zach. So albeit the discussion and the art is a little gut-wrenching, uncomfortable discussions like that, unfortunately, are our reality today. And the more we talk about it, the more we're able to shed light into pressing situations like this. So it's very fitting into our discussion and our roundtable. So on to our main event now for the roundtable discussion featuring our esteemed cartoonists. It will be moderated by Ms. Pia Ranada, Rappler's head of community. We'd like to give a huge shout out to Rappler. Come on. Thank you, Rappler. So, I mean, if you're still unaware where we are right now, surprise, we're at Rappler. We're at the Rappler newsroom. So, thank you so much, Rappler. So, Rappler is the Philippines' leading digital media platform, and it has been at the forefront of fighting disinformation and upholding press freedom through fearless, uncompromising journalism, harnessing technology, and empowering communities of action. We are also excited to have Steph B of Cartooning for Peace and Pitik Bulag, capturing this discussion in real time through live cartooning. So as you can see in, wait, is it already flashed? I'm not sure. But in one monitor, we will display the program descriptions later on, and the other one will showcase Steph's love for cartooning throughout the session. So a little side note about Miss Steph, she is one of the handful of female editorial cartoonists we have in the country, having worked for more than a decade in a published newspaper. Nakaka-proud, di ba? I can't think of doing anything straight for a decade except for yapping, you know? So aside from that, since we are having the discussion, we don't want it to just be like a one-way kind of discussion. So if you guys have any questions later, and if you would like to participate in the Q&A session, you may do so through the Rappler Communities app. So the QR codes are flashed here in our screen, so please scan it or take a photo of it. If you haven't joined the public art channel yet, you can do so now by scanning the QR code displayed on the screen or at the registration area by the door. Okay, so there's a lot happening and a lot to look forward to. So I'm gonna go now and introduce our esteemed panelists. So once I call your name, please come up on the stage, grab a mic, and sit comfortably. Let's call on one of our panelists. He is a cartoonist working for the daily newspaper, College Times, published in English in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates since 2005. He also drew for the Herald Tribune in India from 1990 to 2005, and he won the UN Award in New York in 2000 and 2001. His cartoons are published in various international publications around the world, such as the New York Times, the International Herald Tribune in Paris, to name a few. Please welcome Paresh. How are you feeling?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Are you happy that you're here with us today?
Yes, I'm very much happy.
How was the travel? How was the flight? What's your favorite thing right now in the Philippines?
All are very much cooperative, and I feel very much at home.
Aww. That's just like Philippine hospitality.
All are so well. Yes.
Okay. Please take a seat wherever you feel comfortable. And of course, we also have to introduce our moderator, Miss Pia Ranada. Just moving seats. Okay, for our next panelist, she is a cartoonist based in Taiwan. And since 2017, she contributes mainly to the News Lens International, an English media located in Taiwan that deals primarily with Asian news. She is a member of the Cartoon Movement platform. Please welcome Stelina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stelina.
Okay, for our third panelist, she is from Sydney, Australia, and she regularly draws socio-political cartoons for the daily Sydney Morning Herald, and she makes other publications with the Fairfax media editor. She also makes illustration for children's books and has published 2 collections of cartoons and received several prizes, such as the National Museum of Australia Prize for Political Cartoons in 2009 and 2 Walkley Awards in 2007 and 2013. Please welcome Will Cox. So I'll introduce our other panelists so we can get the ball rolling for our roundtable discussion. And also, again, if you guys are hungry, if you want some drinks or refreshments, we have them over there, just in case you're feeling a little parched. So for our fourth panelist, he studied fine arts, major in advertising at the University of Santo Tomas. He was a cultural worker who collaborated with people's organizations and other non-governmental institutions in the production of film documentaries and animated videos about the plight of basic sectors of society. He's currently in charge of daily operations of the Rappler Creatives Department that handles editorial illustrations, data visualization, motion graphics, conceptualization, and production of rich media executions. Please welcome Emil Mercado. Please feel free to take a seat anywhere you feel comfortable. I think we have a shortage of mics. So I'll pass the mic later on once I'm done introducing everyone. Yes, you may sit here. So our last panelist, last but not the least, it is thanks to the press drawing competition launched in the summer of 2013 by the daily newspaper La Opinion that CAK joined the editorial staff. Since then, he has been illustrating the front page every day and has been sticking his spikes in the 4 cardinal points of French and international politics. Again, let's welcome CAK. Okay, so with that, please feel free to take it away, Pia.
Hello. Hello, mic test. All right, so first let me take a few minutes to appreciate the view in front of me, because usually when you are here on the bridge, we call this the bridge of Rappler, all of the people are looking down onto their laptops, busy typing away, working, researching, and it's nice to finally see faces looking up and all of us talking together instead of working in our own bubbles. And it's great that Rappler Newsroom is serving today as a meeting place, a gathering place for people of different opinions, different contexts, different cultures, and talking about common challenges and problems and ways forward. So I'm really, really happy that Rappler is hosting and that you're all here on a Sunday, no less. And welcome to the Philippines, to those who had to fly from very far away. And yes, before we begin, we dive into the roundtable, I'm just a bit concerned for the people in this part of the newsroom. So I know you cannot see, you're only seeing our back, so please do feel free. There are still some empty chairs here. If there's any of you who would like to move to this part of the newsroom, please feel free to do so. We're not going to be bothered by the movements. We're just really concerned that maybe you're not able to appreciate the roundtable as much. So anytime you feel like it, do feel free to move over here. Okay, so I want to begin this discussion, right, by also acknowledging where we are, the fact that this roundtable is actually happening at a very auspicious time in our world and even for the Philippines. So just a few weeks ago, we commemorated the martial law anniversary. During the Marxist dictatorship, martial law was declared on September 21, 1972, and that was a time of human rights abuses and also intense media repression, and really repression bleeding into every sector of society. Also, just a few weeks ago, we also had the UN General Assembly in New York, right? The world's leaders gathered to talk about human rights situation, the sustainable development goals, and humanity's progress. And just yesterday, we had World News Day, all right, where we also commemorated and recognized how news and press freedom affects all forms of human rights and really all forms of freedoms. So cartoonists are a big part of that. You are a big part of freedom of expression, and we value your work. And at Rappler, we really dedicate all sections and resources to visual arts because we understand how powerful it can be. So with that said, that's the landscape laid. I want to begin this discussion, I think, with maybe a little bit of getting to know you, because we here heard of your work and have seen your work, but want to know more about how each of you came to work in that realm, and specifically that part of visual arts. So I'm hoping we could hear from each one of you with this first question, and I'm hoping that each of you could tell us a little bit about how you came to political cartooning? Yeah, so maybe we can start from CAC and move down the line. Just a little bit of a getting to know you period.
Okay. So briefly, it hasn't always been my job. I've been working for 20 years before that in the movie industry. I was handling, let's say, state agencies in the movie industry, promoting French cinema, promoting France as a location for film shooting. Different job. But I was once a week doing a cartoon so it was a side job for a weekly magazine. And one day, I had also the luck, you heard in the quick pitch about me, I won a contest and became a cartoonist for a daily newspaper. But if I should answer where it comes from, I remember as soon as I started really drawing on a regular basis, maybe around 13 or 14 years old, the thing I loved to do was to make fun of people around me. My mother, I'm sorry, my mother, making fun of her, my father, my sisters and brothers, and then at school, my schoolmates, the teachers, drawing their faces, making big noses, or no hair on the skull, things like that. I remember I loved doing that, which is a way of demonstrating that when you're cartooning, you're not necessarily trying to hurt someone. Not necessarily. Humor is also a bond. It's a way of creating complicity, creating something that we have in common. I make a joke, you laugh, click, there's a connection. So the thing is, are you able to laugh about yourself? That's something else. But so, humor is not necessarily something disgrading. That's what I want to say. So that's, and then cartooning is the closest thing you can find, making fun of other people and giving a message you have to give about the situation. I think cartooning is the answer to that. Mr. Paresh.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. During my childhood days, my father, he was insisting me that you should join a government job, or we should be a civil servant, something like that, or in the administrative service. So in that way, he was pressurizing me. But in the meantime, cartooning, it was a God-gifted talent. I did not take any course. So when my parents, they were pressurizing me for this good, do hard work and do an administrative job. So one day, always I was inquiring myself, hey, what's up to you? So I would have to do something different. There are lots of engineers, lots of doctors, lawyers. So I thought that I should do something different in my way. I wanted freedom. So after I did my, during my school days, I was drawing cartoons of my friends. And when we were getting bored by some teachers, I was making his cartoons also. And when the teacher was also rude, I was making his cartoon. And all my friends, they were giggling. So it was an inborn talent. After I did my courses in literature, English literature and American literature, I started sending cartoons to different newspapers and magazines. Although in my childhood days, I was doing illustrations for children's magazines. So afterwards, I was teaching for a few months in a private college, but I joined a media newspaper, printed newspaper and regional daily. I was given a post of cartoonist cum sub-editor. I was doing a cartoon, then I was subbing the news. Sometimes I was writing stories or features. Afterwards, I joined that newspaper, National Herald. It was founded by Jawaharlal Nehru, the past Prime Minister of India. And I was impressed by those motto and the freedom movement Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, they had started. But while doing cartoons in that newspaper, I thought, why our cartoons are not going international way? What we lack? What is our drawback? So I wanted to do some research. I did. And then I did some cartoons on Sierra Leone peacekeeping force in Sierra Leone, then Global AIDS Fund. After that, I got UN Award. So I thought that, yes, I am on the right track. Then American syndicates, they started picking my cartoons and they circulated my cartoons. Afterwards, my father, although he was angry, but he became happy. He said that, yes, I am proud of you. And I did not know that you had such an ambition, and I am proud of you. So I had already his blessings. And in the meantime, I have never looked back. I explored myself, started giving, although it is the motto of internet that sit locally but act globally. So although I sit in India, but always I work for global affairs, global activities, global issues, and mostly in my neighboring countries, mainly for Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, then Myanmar, Philippines, Taiwan, then Vietnam, and these issues. And wherever there is the democracy is in danger, I was drawing cartoons on them. I don't like military rules. I don't like oppression or torture by the authorities towards the journalists or lawyers or activists or judiciary persons in different countries. Then I joined College Times, Dubai, and I was involved with those Middle East issues, Middle East conflict, Israel and Arab things. When they had no cartoonist so far in College Times. So they said that we will use one of your cartoons in a week because we don't want any controversy, and our culture is not like that. So we will use one cartoon. But afterwards, I was contributing a cartoon a day. Every day I was sending. They started publishing, and afterwards they said, yes, our people are liking. You can give every day. Okay. So every 365 days, every day I was giving 24/7. I was just working. My mind was working, and I started giving. So that was a breakthrough in the Middle East countries.
All right.
So
thank you, Paresh and Kak. Selena?
I never thought I would be a cartoonist, actually. I mean, as Asian, you all know how Asian mothers are. Drawings, you can't make money out of drawings. So actually, I studied diplomacy and I wanted to be a diplomat. But then Taiwan kind of have a difficult position. We don't even have an embassy here. So eventually, I quit my job in an office job. Actually, I used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But I was handling the social media account for our minister. But like I was kind of tired of like just sitting in front of computer and do things that I cannot control. So I just thought that I would do something that I like, which is drawing. So I combine my background, which is diplomacy. I studied diplomacy and international relations. Then I just started to draw politics, and that's how I become a cartoonist. And I actually love every bit of it.
So you never drew your mom in a satirical way when you were a kid? No.
But my mom was fine of it eventually, so we were like, okay.
Maybe that's why. Just kidding. All right, thank you. Kathy?
I shared the experience of CAP, of drawing people at school, immediately popular for drawing, for satirically drawing teachers, immediately unpopular for drawing my classmates in less than flattering ways. So I learned a big... At an all-girls school, girls didn't like to be caricatured. I was interested in lots of things, but when it came to making choices at the end of school, I still kind of felt that what I preferred to do more than anything was draw, but also not in a way that I was going to go and paint paintings. I liked drawing about things, and I liked writing as well, and I had literary interests and so forth. So I just kind of followed that pathway. Apart from acknowledging my privilege, one of the privileges I had was being the third born in a household where the pressure was on the other two siblings to do something well, for my sister to marry well, and for my brother to get a good job so that he would be able to support a wife. This is how my parents saw things, and somehow they just lost sight of me, and they didn't kind of seem too bothered by me just going and doing what I liked. So my career was very much my own to pursue. I did art college, visual communications. I went overseas. I very much didn't want to get sort of shoehorned into one area or another. I wanted to try things out to see where I wanted to work, and it was a matter of sort of picturing myself in places, and I pictured myself doing work. I liked the idea of newspapers. I'd grown up with the newspapers always in the house, and I liked the fact that there were always drawings and that livened the page and that told you what was going, and that I would always make a beeline for the illustrative material and the satire and the humour. And I pictured that I would like to be in that place, working on material that would be changing every day. You'd never get bored. You wouldn't have to worry about the same old news. And so after living overseas, I returned to Australia and started, knocking on doors of publishers and a newspaper. And the newspaper that I knew the best, the Sydney Morning Herald, was the first to give me serious, initially just contributor jobs, and then took me on board as a regular cartoonist. And 35 years later, while I still thought that I was free as a bird and working like a contributor, I'm a salaried cartoonist for the same newspaper. So effectively I've been doing the same job, but it's been different the whole time, because I've gone from doing funny cartoons with the silly stories to working on the news pages to now being an editorial cartoonist, the main editorial cartoonist for the Sydney Morning Herald. So it's just been a pathway of finding what I like to do the most and doing it as well as I can.
Thank you, Kathy. Emil?
Hello. I guess I share the same, what do you call this, background, or where I started with art. Yeah, like them, I started with reading the cartoons from newspapers, and I guess that somehow also politicized me as much as it influenced my work style. So I guess after college, I was pretty much involved with several people's organization, activism, all that. And I guess from there, it was just a short trip to going here in Rappler and, practicing what I've experienced and learned.
It's so great to hear from Sir Emil, because usually Sir Emil is not in public events like this. So to hear his journey is really interesting, but so is interesting to hear all of your journeys. That you all came from, it started in childhood, and then it kind of carried on to different times of your life, and then it's actually probably a great thing that you're doing something passionate. Not everyone can say that they're doing something that they're passionate about for a living. So it's a great story to hear, and also inspiring for a lot of our younger artists in the room. One thing I wanted to ask also, because it's very rare to have cartoonists from different parts of the world in one room, and I wanted to hear, as a journalist, right, like about the state of media repression or media freedom in your countries. And you've all experienced working for newsrooms, right, on a deadline. I'm sure you have the same kind of deadline to beat as us breaking news reporters, and that's a whole new dynamic, right? Dealing with editors, dealing with deadlines, and when to print the paper, etc. But something that's common also in newsroom practice is the effect that your work will have on the paper, the consequence it might have to you as an artist, the newspaper, the brand, your families. I mean, I'm curious to hear, have you ever experienced anything like censorship or repression at any point in your careers, and how did you deal with it? Yeah. At this point, anyone can answer. Yeah.
You want to start from that end?
Kathy, go ahead.
Okay. I'm probably the person who would have had the least experience of censorship, I think. In all previous international meetings of cartoonists. And in comparing my situation to theirs, I've been able to say, well, no, I have freedom to choose what I do a cartoon about. I don't have to submit it to the editor before I go ahead and draw it. I don't have to submit it to the editor before I pass it through for publication. At some point in the line of sub-editors handling my work, they may well go, oh, this might be contentious, or there might be something about it that maybe rings an alarm bell for them, in which case it might need to be checked by a lawyer, or it might be something that's too strong a comment. But too strong a comment is not even something that actually, like I can think of maybe one or two occasions where I've been asked to clean up the blood a bit. Like it just if it's too too gory, but and I don't do gore that much, but. I feel to a large degree that because I've been in this place for a long time, this newspaper, I navigate its boundaries quite well. I'm aware of that it's more the legal limitations that we've had. The main difference has been the one topic that has brought up the issue of whether it can be talked about in as full a way as I might want to speak of it is of course the conflict in the Middle East, where there is a high degree of pressure from groups outside of the newspaper, pressuring the editors not to push certain lines, or to eternally being demanded to create a balanced view, which is to some people's perception not a balanced view. And because my work I'm based in Sydney, but my work also runs in the sister publication of the Sydney Morning Herald, the Melbourne Age, I also get to experience the differences between those two mastheads. That's been an experience also throughout pretty well most of my career of doing editorial cartoons, that I've always been drawing for two mastheads, not one. And I've very often been able to, if a cartoon has been rejected by one newspaper, I'll just file it to the other one, and it will end up going without problem at the other one. It's and it changes with the seasons, it changes with the editors. I always sort of feel like when a new editor comes in, they last about 3 years, a new editor comes in and I need to educate them all over again as to how I work. And how
so how many editors have you worked with?
I think I did a count, and it would be at least 10 over the years. And it's when they start to want to have a hand on mine and start to say, I think we'd like you to do more stuff about this or less about that. And I have to have a little quiet chat with them and say, no, that's not how we work here. So, to my knowledge, I also have more freedom than any other cartoonist other cartoonists in my country as well. Most editorial cartoonists are expected to submit roughs and have some kind of a discussion with the editors beforehand. So I think thanks to my predecessor at the Sydney Morning Herald, who established, I think, this pattern, or my predecessors, they established this pattern of, we don't touch the cartoonist. The cartoonist they're an opinion maker, and they're allowed to do what they want to do. So as I say, in spite of the limitations of law, and then when it comes to the issue of the Middle East, then there is a battle to be fought there, but I think that I've also had some wins on that as well.
That's good to hear.
About the censorship, I want to say that every newspaper has its own policy. Yes, own policy. Some are pro-government, some are anti-government, or some are very much neutral, or some try to raise people's issues. So in that way, we have to work accordingly. because in government some services, they have Officials Act, they have Official Secrets Act. So they follow the rules, government rules. So in newspapers also, we have to first study the editor, what he wants. Then you will have to do accordingly. Then newspaper policy, we will have to follow. So in that way, we have to control ourselves. And secondly, when you are working for a global arena, you will have to do some in a way that should be universally accepted or universally sellable. And because you are catering to a global mass. So most of the editors from different countries, they should also like it. Yes, it is he's 100, not 100%, 50% at least right. Because in every art or creativity work, like or dislike, you may say 50-50%. 50% people may like it, or 50% may not like it. We don't take who appreciate it, 50%, but we always follow those who dislike and why they dislike, why they criticize. And if it is for our better things, for betterment, then we also follow that, yes, we have to rectify ourselves. We have to learn from these things. So in that way, we self-regulate. Sometimes our ideas may be wild. Sometimes emotionally it is there. So first, we are the creator and we are the editor also.
But Paresh, when you say you listen to people who dislike your cartoon, dislike meaning offended or they hated it aesthetically, could you just help us understand that more? Like offended? Like is that more of what you're saying?
No. I think in that way, dislike, that they want some developments or some improvements, or they think that it should have been in that way, or without any basis, jealousy way that it is bad in that way. So we should not think that, but we should always try to make ourselves better.
Would anyone else like to answer the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll be brief about France. But first of all, I'd like to pay a tribute to school teachers. Not because they've taught us things, that's the first tribute, but at least 3 of us, we started using them as, practicing targets.
The first subjects, the first victims.
So, thank you, school teachers. So, I will be brief about France because I'm a bit in the same situation as Kathy. I live in Disneyland, for a cartoonist. I can do whatever I want. I've produced for my daily newspaper, it's been now 10 years, I've produced, I think, 2,300 front cover cartoons. At least in 30% of that amount, which is about 900, there was the President of the Republic or the Prime Minister featured, not in a nice way, and I never received a single phone call. I'm not saying that because the French ambassador is here. But please tell it to the President. Tell him I said so. But no, I never received any phone call. The only anecdote I can tell you, and it's a good example, is Plantu, the famous Jean Plantu, who was for 40 years doing the head cover cartoon for Journal Le Monde. At the time when Nicolas Sarkozy was president of the Republic, Plantu was not really nice with him. And one day, suddenly, he decided that whenever he would draw the president of the Republic, Nicolas Sarkozy, he was adding a little fly going around like this in the cartoon. I'd ask him, why are you doing that? I don't know. I think it's funny. Okay. And so one day the editor of Le Monde comes and sees Plantu and say, Jean, listen, okay, you do whatever you want, but we received a phone call from l'Élysée, which is our president of the Republic. And they're saying that the fly around the president is, but you're free. It's France, you're free. Do what you want. The next day, he drew Nicolas Sarkozy with 2 flies. Never another phone call. So that's the kind of country we live in. So I'm not saying there are no pressures. Sometimes there, like pressures, you can tax control of the newspaper, things like that. Little reminders that there's an authority, but it's really easy compared to other countries where, actually, because we monitor all countries at Cartooning for Peace. I'm not going to do a lecture about press freedom in the world right now, but there are many, many, many countries where we see that the trend is really negative. There already were countries where press is not free, like China, like of course Afghanistan today, Iran. I must say Russia now. And there's absolutely no independent newspaper. Novaya Gazeta was closed and had to produce from abroad. But there's now a new trend in very big countries, like India, for example, like Turkey, very big countries, very powerful countries, where it's not only repression of journalists, it's also an attempt to, step by step, get control over the media. Like you have a very rich friend that, so you create problems to a media as a government, so the media has financial problems, and then you have a big friend coming on the side saying, if you need someone to put money in your media, I'm available, and then the media becomes a friend of the government, and then so on, and this other one, and then the TV channel, and so I think it's very perverse because it's not like a frontal attack of the journalist, which they also do, but it's also going through the back door and then making sure that all the media are on your side, because then the whole people in your country, they only hear good news about you, that you're a great leader, that everything that you do is nice. And this trend is happening in more and more countries, which is why I said in the beginning that I think the independence of the media, independence not only towards power, but also towards big money, we have to fight for this in every country, including our Disneyland countries. I think so.
Yeah, media ownership is a big problem, even in the Philippines.
May I just add a little bit about self-regulation? Since in my position, in my capacity, I'm in the first line of the review when it comes to our artists, in-house artists doing their editorial illustrations. For, let's say, if there's a particular subject that they want to approach for editorial illustrations, we want to stress the creative part. Not tackling the subject head on. There are so many ways to approach a particular subject, different angles. In that way, we're also thinking it helps the artists to expand their visual vocabulary. Another thing is we also approach it like fact-checking. We will not publish an editorial cartoon that we cannot defend. Thank you. It has to be fact-checked. And of course, we have female corrupt politicians, but we have to ensure that we won't, there has to be a line drawn against misogyny, anything sexual, or because, so there are so many things to consider. So I guess those are the type of things that the filters are gatekeeping, if you will. Of course, in the Philippines, of course, we have different religions here, although predominantly we're Roman Catholics, but we have to make sure the symbols that we use, we have to, those kind of things, not to support the stereotypes. So even with all those parameters, there's still pretty much a wide berth that we could explore. So I guess when it comes to self-regulation, that's the area that we are employing here in Rappler.
Yeah, I was actually reminded of, how woke culture now is very rampant, right? Like, you be canceled for a cartoon or art that offends someone. And I was just wondering, have you navigated that with your cartoons? Did you ever face maybe not repression from inside a newsroom, like from editors, but from audiences who are offended by your work, and then they would lobby like your paper about work you did that offended them? Has it ever been an issue, maybe with other members of the Cartoonists for Peace community?
Do you have any such experience? Should I answer also the censorship in our media, or I just jump to the second?
Yeah, because maybe in Taiwan is a good example too.
Actually, in terms of censorship, like in Taiwan, we are quite democratic, although we are a young democratic country. I remember the beginning of my career, I wasn't really sure about where's the red line, and I was asking my editor, do you think it's okay I draw this? Because I was still quite young in this career, And then I remember he told me, as long as it's a fact, draw it. So I was okay, I was assured that I could give a free range to my topic. But I do get a bit of pressure when I draw about China. Especially, I draw a lot on Xi Jinping, the president of China. I remember in 2019, I had an exhibition, and I realized that actually more than half of the cartoons I did was about Xi Jinping. So actually, I named it "Xi's All Over." So I do get this kind of pressure, like when I bring my cartoons to other countries, and when I was representing Taiwan, the organizer has to check, like, is there a problem with China? Like, is there a problem with the Chinese stand or the Chinese representative in the event? Actually, it's in Angoulême, it's in France, the comic book festival. And actually, I also want to respond to your censorship in France situation. Okay, it's not really censorship, but like I publish a comic book in France where I draw all the world leaders, including Macron, Biden, Trump, and also leaders in the Middle East. And them as kids going to school and do a lot of stupid things. They poke at each other, hit each other. They try to elect class president. So I wasn't sure if it's because of this sensitive topic. My editor, they arranged a book signing in the Ministry of Finance in France, and I was rejected. Only me, but the others, they were accepted. So I was rejected of the book signing, but they never told me why. I don't know if it's related to censorship, but...
Have you paid your taxes?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. But also speaking of France, I was reminded of the Charlie Hebdo incident, right, in January 2015, where because they were drawing Muhammad, there were attacks by Islam extremists that year, and the support for the artists, right, for freedom of expression, it woke up this whole debate, right, about where the limits are for visual arts and freedom of expression. And this leads me to my next question about legal remedies. Like I heard that Cartoonists for Peace also provide support for artists who are attacked, who face legal cases. Could you give us examples of perhaps cartoonists who were given this aid, and what was their journey like? What happened then, and how did your organization help them, and how are they now?
Yeah, there are many examples. First, I'd like to say Charlie Hebdo cartoonists and other journalists and police officers were not killed because they had made pictures of the Prophet. That's the excuse, right? They were killed because Islamists, integrists, and terrorists hate democracy, and they wanted to take down a symbol of democracy. A few months later, they killed people listening to music in a theater. Does that have anything to do with the Prophet? I don't think so. And then one of them drew a truck and rolled over people in Nice. And that's only France. There are many attempts in other countries. And the biggest number, actually, of people killed by Islamic terrorism are Muslims in the world. So I don't think that has anything to do with the Prophet. I think it's a very good excuse to gather people saying, oh, we're doing that to defend you because they're making fun of your Prophet. And it's true that some moderate Muslim in France don't like us to draw Muhammad. It's true. They're honest. But they just say peacefully, oh, we don't like when you do that. It's hurting us. And then we can have a conversation. But that's the short introduction. Yes, we are trying to help cartoonists wherever they are and whatever happens. So it can go from small problems with the internet, maybe because, as maybe we'll address your question about woke and cancel culture, but because people get, insulting or threatening on the internet, so it can go from this small level of danger to very big level of physical danger. What we try to do is always to provide a support. It's not only us, actually, it's the French embassies over the world, the French diplomatic services, it's Reporters Without Borders, it's Amnesty International. It's a network of structures. Our specialty is cartoonists, but we collaborate with them because they have much bigger means. And sometimes when it comes to visas or exile, you need the competent authorities from France or other European countries to help you with that. But we try to provide a support that is adapted to each situation, because in some cases you need to make noise about it, because the cartoonist has been arrested and he or she lives in a country where the authorities don't like to have a bad image. They want a good image. So if you make noises about it, they're saying, oh shit, that people are hearing that we arrest. So the guy gets, or the lady gets liberated. In other countries, it's the contrary. If you make noises, they're going to get punished harder. So you have to find other ways. It can be like financing their lawyer because they don't have money to pay a lawyer. It can be renewing their computer or iPad or whatever they're drawing on because it has been taken away by the police. You know, it's a very simple way of having a cartoonist stop working. You just make a control visit, take him to the station maybe for 6 hours, but you keep everything he has home, computer, you know, and for us, when we draw on digital, it's expensive material. I mean, an iPad is expensive. So you just take everything, and then the guy, and she can't work, he or she can't work anymore. So these are examples. And then you have the extreme cases where we actually have to help them to leave their country, which is really complicated. It's dangerous. It's complicated. We tried with, again, all the partners, not only us. We tried to help some cartoonists to leave Afghanistan right after, you know, the Taliban came back and the US had left. It was war. So how can you actually do in these situations? It's really, really tricky and complicated. And most of the job is done by the French consulate authorities and secret services, actually, in these cases. And we have many, and I'm almost done. And so we have, you were asking how are they today? You know, those who have to go on, some are still in the country that we couldn't help them to leave. We have one very difficult case right now in Gaza of a female cartoonist that cannot leave because it's, I mean, how can you take someone out of Gaza right now, you know? The Israeli army won't let you do anything about it. And plus, she's probably monitored, so even by the Hamas, because she's doing, you know, independent cartooning, so complicated. We have people in Iran. That's a bit complicated too. And we also have exiled cartoonists. And for them too, it's very complicated because imagine the situation. You're leaving Russia because your 2 cartoonist friends have been arrested in the past few days, and you think it's a real example, okay, about Vyacheslav Shilov. And you see, I have to leave because I'm going to get arrested too. And then they disappear. You don't know where they are. So, you know, it's really complicated. It's an ordeal to find out where can I get out through Serbia, because Russia, Serbia, it works. And then I can enter Europe, maybe negotiating a visa. And you end up in France with your wife and your 8-year-old kid. You don't speak the language. You have no job anymore. You have no money, even if the French authorities are trying to help you and treat you as an exiled, political exiled. It's really, you're unrooted. I mean, you're lost. You have nothing left. So even when they manage to flee, it's not the end of the story. I mean, you know, they're not happy and, you know, happy ever after. It's really complicated.
So we're wrapping up our roundtable in a bit because we're going to open up the floor to some questions. So I just want to remind everyone that you can send them to the public art chat room in the Rappler Communities app. But of course, you can also ask your question in person by raising your hand, and someone will bring the mic to you. But of course, if maybe you're camera shy or mic shy, then maybe the chat room would be a good way, because I will be reading out the questions from there. Okay, so for my last question, before we bring it to the audience, let's move to technology, because obviously visual arts, the way you reach people, you distribute your art, it's also a very key aspect of how you impact people with your work. And a lot of people are saying that social media and even internet is a very liberating platform for artists. And I wanted to know how this new technology has impacted your work. Did you have to change the way you do it because of the audience on the internet, maybe the platform you use it, if you use Instagram or other platforms? How has this impacted your work? How has it freed you in any way? Or what are also some challenges you're navigating with this new technology in this new medium?
Technology, Parej, Kathy?
I guess I'm in a quite good position to talk about it because I've been working for long enough that I didn't have it for a long time, and then I did. One of the things that prompted me to go onto social media, for one thing, onto Twitter, as it was known back in its innocent days, one of the things that put me there was the fact that in my newspaper, they were going through almost annual rounds of redundancies. And so there were lots of job losses, and every time these redundancies were coming, I was thinking, if I don't work here, there's not a lot of other newspapers. There's all of the Murdoch media. I'm not sure how well familiar you are with Rupert Murdoch and his media world, but where I have talked of the beautiful freedom of the newspaper where I have worked, Murdoch-owned media is kind of the alternative place. So I wouldn't want to be leaving my place and only being able to go there. And I also thought, if I don't work at this particular newspaper, sure, I can keep on drawing, but who knows who I am? Do I even exist if I don't have a place to do cartoons? So venturing into Twitter and putting my work there and engaging with readers and followers there, I realized that I kind of gave myself an identity outside of the newspaper, that I existed with or without the newspaper. And that has been also a really important thing, I think, in growing my own professional confidence, because I think it's very possible to be institutionalized. You work for the same place. They don't bother to say you're doing a good job very much, because you're just there, you're part of the furniture. You can spend your life wondering if you're doing any good or not. You're just collecting your salary and you're coming and doing it. And suddenly there's this sort of engagement in the internet, whereas previously I maybe would receive 1 or 2 letters from readers if they really liked a cartoon. Then suddenly you've got this audience immediately responding to your work, mainly positively, and so it sort of raised my profile enormously in my country, gave me a wider audience than just in my state or even in my country, but it brought me countrywide and also beyond the bounds of Australia too, with as audiences can reach further. So for that, it has been really good. On the other hand, there's all those other things that come with engaging in social media, which is that you really have to work out who you are, so that when you're attacked and when people tell you that you're something or other for what you do, and that goes back to your other question that we didn't really get around to answering, but about the sort of the being attacked online or whatever for your work, you have to have worked out pretty soundly who you are, so you can withstand that. And that's where I also considered that it is potentially a dangerous place. There's been many times when I've thought, I've really got to get away from that because I can feel that it gets under my skin. But meanwhile, the sort of the engagement is still important, and the connection and the access to news that's going on in the world, especially when there's international conflict and when our own mainstream media is not reporting the full story. I have found it so very, very important to be able to find out what's going on via social media.
I want to say something. This social media, it has both good and bad things. It is good that it carries your work immediately and you get immediate response. But the bad thing is that there is more fake news, misinformation or disinformation, it is there. And nowadays, some ruling parties, they also use their IT cells to make others trolling. Yes, some cartoonists, even in India also, when they do some cartoons on the ruling party or the government, immediately some trollers, they get the support from ruling party and they troll that cartoonist. They harass him, they abuse him. It is maybe he or she, they abuse them. So this is the disadvantage or manipulation. This is type of manipulation in social media. This we are afraid of. Second thing, there is artificial intelligence. It is also growing, it is coming. It is also another threat to the creativity. But human mind is always superior. That is not a bigger threat.
That is true.
I agree, really agree with what Parish said. with you. So all the qualities, the advantages and the drawbacks of the digital world. The most striking thing to me is how quick the dictators understood and learned how to use to their advantage the social networks. And for some people on social networks, they have this very naive approach that every single person expressing there is democracy, it's a free opinion. No, among these people, you have thousands of bots and thousands of fake profiles who are saying just what the dictator or the state leader wants them to say. And they're very clever, Everybody knows now that Mr. Putin has complete factories of trolls working to destabilize the Western world, not only, but including the Western world. So this is really a striking point about, it's not only about some troll, some people saying, I hate you, and your work sucks, and you're not good, and you should not be allowed to draw black people because you're white, or women because you're a man, okay, let's debate about it. It's not, as long as you don't threaten me, my life, it's a debate. And it's most striking that it's actually partly being manipulated. You also have real readers, of course, on the social media. But how to make the difference? And one of our biggest fears, and I'm done, is it's not only me, is how my editor is going to make the difference when suddenly there's a small shitstorm around one of my cartoons. And the editor, he has my age, maybe older. So for him, still, the digital world is a bit something mysterious. And so he has the feeling that everybody hates the cartoon. As everybody, it's actually 800 people. You can see that on that. Yeah, and they freak out. And that's happened to the New York Times in 2009 with this whole debate about Antonio Antunes' cartoon, about Netanyahu and Trump. Suddenly, they just freaked out. Although it was only a few thousand people compared to the number of readers they have, it's nothing. But you don't know, really. It sounds like a storm, and they just stop publishing cartoons. And that's what I'm afraid of. The misconception that if there's a panic online, then it's a panic for everybody.
It's those coordinated attacks that mimic some sort of groundswell of hatred that is not there. Yeah.
May I just add a little bit? I guess we have a similar incident, but not that big of a situation. We have some of our cartoons, we ride on a popular meme that's going on, and then we would apply a certain idea to that meme in context. For example, we recently had, how to describe this meme? Are you familiar with, it's like several panels of, the meme goes, the best grandma. So, like it's a Walt Disney. You have grandma from Pocahontas, grandma from, several. And then one in the middle, you would say, not you. You're not included. So in that case, that meme would go, Pocahontas grandma, what's this? Moana grandma. But in the middle, the grandma from Encanto. Because, because they say that she's, anyway, so that's the idea. Same grandma, and then in the middle, you're not included. So there have been several iterations of that meme. Now, one of our artists decided to Happy Father's Day. So several well-known fathers, and then this politician in the middle, not you. So most of our younger readers get it. That's funny. It's okay. When it was shown to me, I approved it. It's funny. It's not really offensive, but somewhere within that line. And then there were several reactions from some of our older readers. They were saying, "Oh, what? Why? This is so petty." So we had to explain. Well, some of our media savvy community had to explain that, but you have to explain a joke, but then, there are lines that you really have to explore within that. Yeah, as you said, it's not really, a few people doesn't really make a, right. What else? In regards to how to, I guess, maximize social media, because my daughter is always telling me that, what? You're older than the internet, Dad? Because I always tell her that there's no internet Or in fact, there was Photoshop was still beginning when I was in college. So it was really, I guess the difference, artists that somehow the internet, although this is debatable, right? There is it gives an equal platform, or at least a venue for everyone. Not much gatekeeping, as for if you're an artist that you're relying on galleries to exhibit your work. Not that there are, or even as you said, there would be other publications, just publications that would not publish or would not even touch your work. Social media would give you that chance. And also, for us here living in this space, we are that agents to really help balance things out in regards to, the undesirables in the internet right now.
Right. So it's like giving, in the martial law days, the mosquito press found an alternative platform. Today it could be social media, but like you pointed out, social media is also not a very safe space anymore. It's also become a toxic environment. So it's up to a lot of sectors to fix that problem. So thank you so much for those answers. Now we're going to move on to opening the floor to our audience. But before that, no, we also want to say that there's live art being drawn as we speak by Steph B. And during the open forum and Q&A portion, we will be flashing the live drawing. So stand by for that behind on our screens. There you can see a little bit of it. All right, so I'm going to first read some questions sent in. Yes?
Do I disappear and just get a drink of water?
Oh, sure, yes. Okay, maybe we could get water for Kathy. Yeah, we'll actually bring it here so you don't have to leave.
For everyone.
Oh, for everyone, for everyone. Okay, so I will be reading some questions sent to us on the Rappler chat room public art, but please do feel free if anyone has questions to keep sending or to raise your hand whenever you think of a question. So we have a question here for Emil from Mikey via the app chat room. So his or her question is, how did political cartooning change as to the risk involved with technology on social media from the dictatorship of Marcos, the Duterte dictatorship, and back to a Marcos admin who promised to be against disinformation?
Can you repeat that?
Okay.
Good luck.
So the question of Mikey was, how did political cartooning change? I guess meaning the risk involved in political cartooning. Is it riskier now under Marcos Jr.
compared to Duterte?
Compared to Marcos Sr.? Maybe. Were you alive during Marcos Sr.? I'm not sure.
No, not yet. Well, I was, but I'm still too small to. Okay. They say there's two types of fascism, right? The outright fascism, and then there's you are like red tagging. That's the more the subtle or the coercion and creating a climate of fear. We've seen that, of course, with Duterte administration. And it was really continued with the attacks online, with individuals and organizations, especially with the NTF LCAC. There have been recent developments as to, supposedly to address the red tagging, but again, these are just surface stories, because you would hear stories from the fringes of there have been continuous abductions from several political activists on the fringes. So it may not be as open and rampant as the previous administration, but that doesn't mean that the climate of danger, it's always there. So I guess to answer that question, nothing has changed. We have to be continuously vigilant.
To add to that, no, actually, the Philippines dropped 2 places in the World Press Freedom Index in 2024. So that's during the administration of Marcos Jr. And the reason for that was even if there might not be a more overt hostility to media ownership has been the problem. So it's like the cousin of the president has a stake in one of the biggest networks in the Philippines. A politician bought a network. So those were the main things. Like also independence of the media. And, there are like 159 journalists killed in the Philippines. 2023, only last year, a radio journalist in Mindanao was killed in broad daylight during his live radio show in his house. So these are still happening despite the change in administration. So we have another question from would anyone else? But that was also a question for Emil, but if anyone would like to add. Okay, so from Kenneth Gadian, this is a question he's sending to everyone. He would like anyone to answer. Do you ever hold back in making a commentary through political cartoon? If yes, what factors do you consider? Do you ever hold back? Do you ever edit yourself, self-censor?
Everybody does. Do you ever hold back something you were about to say?
I would think, what would happen here then? Oh, okay, I'll just write it anyway. But I think of the consequences.
You do. Meaning this, sometimes you see the news or you hear something, we mostly draw about the news, and you're like, enraged or angry, and maybe your first thought is really violent. But then what's your job? Your job is to send a message. I think my job is to give my point of view. A cartoon is only the point of view of someone at a certain moment of time about a certain specific topic. That's what a cartoon is. So, and I want people to understand my point of view, not just to see that I am furious. Yeah, I'm furious, so what? What do you have to say about it? So then, of course, I hold back. I say, okay, is it the best way, being angry and maybe, insulting or really violent? Is it the best way of sending my message? If the answer is yes, it's the best way, then I will do it. But holding back is sometimes just thinking better about what you're about to do to make sure that you will reach the goal.
So you're thinking along the lines of what is the impact I'm trying to make? What is the purpose, the strategy behind it? All right, Paresh?
Yes, I think I have told about it before, that the cartoonist, he has to regulate himself. It may be some wild ideas come when there is a news, some enraged thing is there, you feel angry, but you have to control. And you are the creator and you are the editor. So you have to, although there is a wild idea, but you'll have to control it and regulate it accordingly. That what message should we give? So there we have to manage it.
Would anyone else like to answer?
I do find myself hold back a bit, especially in terms of religious race and tragedy. This kind of topic is really sensitive, and I don't want to, accidentally cross the red line. So I do find myself tread it really lightly when I'm drawing this kind of cartoons, and especially I would rather give people a laugh instead of stir up some more hatred or stir up some more unnecessary suffering.
So do no harm kind of principle. Yeah. Kathy?
Similarly, a do no harm principle. Like where I have spoken about, having great freedom, it's the cliche or the line, with great freedom comes responsibility, great responsibility. I wouldn't be where I am doing the job I'm doing if I were doing kind of reckless cartoons that were careless of what I'm saying, or carelessly disregarding the feelings of some groups. That the notion of punching up and punching down comes into it. I'm sure around the time of Charlie Hebdo, there would have been people who would have said to me on social media, "Oh yeah, what about you? Have you ever drawn the Prophet Muhammad, as a provocation, well, go on, why don't you draw it? Let's see what happens to you." And I go, if I wanted to draw the Prophet Muhammad in a cartoon to make perhaps a point of criticism about the institution of Islamism or extremism or whatever, and if I put an image of the Prophet Muhammad in to make that point, whatever point I had to make would be lost, because all of the energy would be taken by this focal point there. I mean, CAK is gonna disagree, and I'm interested to hear that. But I sometimes think that you have to work out what it is you want to, what's important to say, and not put things in there that are actually going to get in the way of the message of what you're trying to make. And I don't want to be an asshole as well. I don't, like I probably pull my punches more than I might. Although on the other hand, my punches go in my work more than in my personal interactions with people. So I guess I try and concentrate what I have to say into being something powerful on paper. But yeah, I think you have to be. It's a delicate weapon we wield, and so you have to use it with discretion and wisdom for it to be effective, because otherwise you're going to alienate a chunk of your audience, and they're going to go, well, she would say that, and I'm not interested in anything she has to say. I'm more interested, for example, in being able to have people who might not agree with me on certain things go, but I agreed with her on those things, so I might just consider her point of view on this thing, because they trust how I'm weighing up a situation. All right.
I have to answer that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, then I'll answer that.
Yeah, sure. This is somewhat related with the punching up, not punching down, especially with the coming elections here in the Philippines. We usually, there's this common phrase, bobo tante. You often hear that. Bobo is stupid in Filipino. And botante is voter. So parang stupid voter. So it's like stupid voter. I guess that is something that we will never cross. You will never blame the people as, for poorly choosing the candidates, that sort of thing. Yeah. So that is something really that we try to take to.
I mean, a short answer in 2 points. First, the prophet. It's not true that Muslims all around the world forbid you to have images of the Prophet. It's certain Muslim trends, not all of them, A. B, even for those who don't like it, if you draw the Prophet in a respectful way, meaning, it's not like an insult to the Prophet, they don't like it, but it's okay, because they know you're entitled to do it. At least in France, you're entitled to do it. You have the right to do so. So I didn't say you mustn't do it, but I agree. One point is, if I really need the Prophet in my cartoon, I will use it. Because that very day, I'm not getting up every morning thinking I have to do a cartoon about Muslim. It's only if that day, for some reason, and if you don't need him, you don't need him. Don't use him, because then it's provocation. If you use him for no reason, then it's provocation. And I didn't say that I thought we should do no harm. I just said I'm holding back to make sure that what I'm about to do is exactly what I want to say. And if I want to say it's going to harm some people because they don't agree with me, I will still say it. Because if you stop saying anything that's going to harm anyone on that planet, then you don't say anything.
And sometimes the purpose is to provoke, right? Some cartoonists is to provoke precisely.
I think cartooning is an invitation to debate. I think you say, this is what I think. What do you think? And if you don't agree, just say it. Send a cartoon, say something, just tell me, oh, no, I don't agree. Why? And then we start talking. And talking is building a human society. So, you said our weapon. We don't have any weapon. We have a pencil. And we sit down quietly, not doing any noise, like Steph B right now. Do you think that looks like someone harmful? I mean, she's sitting down, not making any noise. And then in 5 minutes, she will draw me like that, and I will be very angry. And she does it. So we are really peaceful. Our job is like sit down, making no noise, and just drawing peacefully and saying, this is what I think. Sometimes what I think is a bit violent, but it's just an invitation to tell me what you think. That's all I'm doing. It's nothing really dangerous. So yeah, sometimes it's harmful because people disagree, and they should disagree. A world where everybody agrees would be really, it would be a world. It would be an AI world, with only robots.
But you could make the AI debate also. I'm just saying. There's very many possibilities now. All right, we have another question from Nini. And this question, they're asking, I'm interested to know if there's a decline of young cartoonists in your respective countries. Do you notice any decline, perhaps the opposite? Yes?
Oh, definitely a huge decline in Australia. The audience to a thing like this would be at least over 50. You wouldn't see all these fantastic young art students and school students and journalism students and whoever else is here. Probably. I'm part of the Australian Cartoonists Association, and we are very keen on getting younger cartoonists in, but we have a job to convince them what's in it for them, because they kind of, if they're producing art, they're doing it on their terms, to their audiences, on their own, to their subscribers or on their websites and things, and they partly, I think, enjoy preaching to a very select audience,
intellectual kind of crowd.
Well, and an intellectual crowd, but sometimes also a narrow crowd, in that they're going to be people who agree with them. So then I am quite interested in looking for ways to bring them out of their safe little hidey holes and put some more of their work more broadly in the public. I'm actually sort of in train of doing that, of sort of trying to make more public art and bringing on younger artists. So I feel like they're there in hiding, but they're not seeing themselves in the world of newspapers. That's a fair thing, because newspapers are getting rid of cartoonists. They're not hiring more cartoonists, and the few that remain are spread thinner. But the work of cartoonists is still important, and I kind of want the youngsters to be brave enough to speak to a wider audience outside of their close circle.
Young cartoonist in Taiwan. You're one young cartoonist.
Yeah, I'm probably the youngest. Actually, that's like the comment I get almost everywhere. Whenever I attend something, there was like, "Oh, you're a cartoonist. I thought you were like old." Actually, I'm 32 years old.
Ouch.
I'm 32, and when I've been doing this for 8 years, so which means that when I started, it was like 20 something. So like that's the comment that I get the most. And when I attend something, usually they're like quite older than me, and mostly dominated by males. But actually, we have 2 female cartoonists here, so which is like something that's special for me, because usually I'm like the only woman and the only young woman in the scene. And actually in Taiwan, it's really a dying breed. There's probably just like 2 or 3 cartoonists working in this field. And the other ones are quite older as well. And we have a few really good cartoonists back in the 80s, 90s, which is kind of weird, because at the time we were still like at the end of dictatorship, because we lifted the martial law around 1989. 1989 to 1992 is like around the time when the ban is lifted and press become more free. But that was like the time when press cartoons was like the most popular. People read everywhere in newspaper, and we would like call out like, yeah, yesterday I saw the cartoon and it's talking about something. But I guess that's the time when we needed most the cartoon. And then now it's just, democracy is like kind of just natural to us. And but again, like democracy doesn't just fall down from the sky. We have to, keep it in a way. So yeah, this is something that Taiwanese society really needs, and I can feel that there's a coming back now. Like there are some news media, they use more and more cartoons or like comic strip, so which is a good thing. But yeah.
Paresh.
In India, I have seen that for the younger generation, this cartooning, there is a very little scope. And cartooning, it is a dying art nowadays. Earlier, the cartoons were being published on the front pages of the newspaper, but gradually they are vanishing. And there is different, so many reasons. There is a little bit media censorship, and the ruling party does not want cartoons on about this government. That is one reason. And second thing is that print media itself is in danger also. All are going digital way, mostly. Maybe in next 20 years, all will go digital. And second thing, the younger generation, they are also going for this animation things. Yes. And cartoonish sports are also not much nowadays. Editors are not taking more cartoonists. And even if there is one, after his retirement, there is no appointment. So for the younger generation, this is a disappointment.
Yeah, briefly, I'm just like Stelina. I'm always the youngest cartooning in cartoonist meeting in France. Why are you laughing?
Satire.
Okay. No, yeah, same problem, so I'll make it short. I think in France, the youngest generations, it's not that they are not attracted to press, because in my newspaper, we're hiring a lot of new, really talented young journalists, like 26, 27, and they're super smart and super quick. So it's not about the press in itself. I think it's more about the cartooning practice. It might be perceived as something from the old world. It's very connected to politics. And I think younger generations in France who wants to be activists and do things, they don't go through political parties anymore. For them, that's the old world. They have their own associations, their own things, NGOs and stuff like that. And politics, which is a problem because they don't go voting. Yeah, it's a problem. It's like we have 50% abstention and like 60% among the young people abstention. So it's a big, big problem. But then they go around, and maybe cartooning is like connected to the political world. It's an old thing. They have new tools. They can do videos. They can do memes. They can do a lot kind of different stuff. Plus, it's poorly paid. There are not that many jobs. So it's not really attractive. We only have a few entering every year or so, but very small numbers.
I see. What else? Because, in the Philippines, I think there's actually a resurgence of cartooning. And just to plug, like Rappler has an animated, our editorials are actually animated, and they're from Sir Emil's team. Like, our editorials are, so there's a weekly, kind of spotlight on our creatives team. All right, so we're going to have other questions from the public art chat room. And this one is from Elio. Are political cartoons universal in communicating its message, or do they resonate differently in local contexts? Yes, got something new. Yeah. So I guess the question is, do you think political cartoons are universally appreciated no matter what context they're in, or are there certain contexts where they thrive? They tend to thrive more.
There are some issues or crises or the topic that could be local, but the approach should be universal. We have to do, in that way, we have a responsibility to draw the cartoon in a way that is that should be appreciated by all. I mean, it should have its own justification. And there should be irony and other elements like wit and humor, fun. They'll be accepted universally.
So kind of what you're saying is it's up to the artist to make their cartoon relevant to that context.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Emil?
It's a visual medium, so I guess it has to be really understood right away. So it has to, it should be like an icon that you understand that this is the bathroom, this is the comfort room. So it's one look. It has to be understood. The finer details, the finer narratives, that would be contextual, of course, depending from what locality or who's the viewer, who's the audience. But there has to be that universal element has to be the message should be visual. The visual narrative should be understood immediately, depending on, well, at least the good ones or the powerful cartoon should be, ideally. Yeah.
But for us in France, most of our production is local politics. I mean, 90% of my cartoons are about the French politics. So it's probably not understandable by anyone else rather than maybe the Belgium, because they're next door and they love to make fun about French politics. But for the rest, you would not understand. And, you know, my job is also to to provide my newspapers with something that the readers want to see, and the readers want to see French politics. So you cannot always be universal. Our dream, of course, is to do, you know, cartoons like Nardi, Boligan. These are names of famous cartoonists who managed to do universal cartoons with no text, only images, and everybody understands and everybody cries or laughs or whatever. Yeah, you can try that. But if you do like 5 of these in your life, it's good.
Yes, likewise, I agree, Kak, and likewise, a great deal of my work is drawn for the readers of the newspaper that I work for. That's a very particular readership. It's called mainstream because it's mainstream. It's, you know, it's a wide audience, and so it's expected that the drawings that I do will be understood, broadly speaking, by that audience, with the occasional exception, like a youthful reference that is missed by the older readers or something. And then there are other things too that take away from the universality, and that is the fact that you live in a particular society with its particular assumptions. And you know, like every year on March the 8th, International Year of Women, Day of Women comes around, International Women's Day, and I try to do a cartoon on that theme every year. But one year I was thinking about all these issues that are discussed in our society, in our Western privileged society, where the discussions of the day concern access to childcare and at what point do you go back to work, and whether you're sharing the household tasks with your husband, if there's a husband and whatever. And I thought how very specific that world is. So instead of drawing a discussion around those little things, I made the speeches come out of the mouths of some presumably Ethiopian women, seated on the ground, holding their children, and with kind of not a whole lot of anything in terms of infrastructure, but they're having a very first world discussion about, oh, well, I tried to get my daughter into childcare, but really the waiting list was so long, and oh, I get so cross when my husband won't help with tasks around the house. And just to show how great our assumptions can be about what are our problems versus the enormity or in comparison to others. So no, I think that there can be universal cartoons, and as Kak mentioned, some of the great cartoons by Boligan and some of the wordless cartoons that speak across the world, but also there's every bit a place for cartoons that are specific and cartoons that remind us of our specific world and set of assumptions in comparison to those of other parts of the world.
In literature, there is one subject that is called satire. And I view the editorial cartoon, it is just like pictorial satire. I define it as pictorial satire, or the editorial in picture. I visualize in that way. As the editorial, it is justified. It justifies the fact or the crisis or the situation. It is written in that way, and nobody can deny it. It is accepted. So in that way, we draw the cartoon so that it is justified. So it is editorial in picture.
All right, so we actually have lots of questions coming in from the participants today, but we don't have all the time in the world, but we wish we could lengthen this discussion, right? But so I'll be wrapping up with 2 questions from the audience, and our second to the last question comes from Sof, and they ask, what are your thoughts on cartoonists who use AI as inspiration, and how is AI impacting the work of cartoonists now?
I haven't heard of cartoonists using AI for inspiration. I have heard animators in animation film sometimes where they need to build mood boards, sorry, like inspiration images for the film they're going to make. Sometimes they ask the AI, can you, I don't know, do me images of the sunset on a mountain with the snow, and because sometimes the AI produces things and oh, that's a good idea, I could change it. So for inspiration, I don't think that's a problem, really. It's like, reading at books and looking on the internet, like Google image, and it's not very, very different if you use it only as inspiration. So far, no AI that I tried has been able to do my job, meaning I'm reading you the newspapers and say, make me laugh with that. That's my job. So the AI, I tried, it doesn't work. It doesn't even understand the question. But I think the real danger is, it's not a danger. The real opportunity is for those who can't draw but would like to make cartoons. Well, if you have ideas, you have an AI, you can just describe exactly what you want to the AI, and it's going to produce magnificent cartoons with the style of someone else. But
copyright is a whole other issue.
Magnificent cartoons. And then there's copyright problems, but that's...
But that will soon be outdated. It has no permanence.
Which one?
These AI cartoons.
No, I don't have anything great to offer on AI. I agree that I think that all is in the idea. I've been shown cartoons that were produced in a conference last year, where they used my style as the draw cartoons about blah in the style of Wilcox, and they showed these things, and I think they were to do with some kind of law thing, but it was cartoon about something, but there was not an angle to them, and a cartoon kind of needs an angle. And I looked at these cartoons and I went, no, that doesn't really look like my line work, and no, that's not how I would have done that, And so,
but are you
I
worried?
felt like I was not. I didn't feel like I was endangered immediately to have cartoons ripping, trading on my name, as it were, trading on my style. But also, we're so far down the path of having our intellectual property siphoned, hoovered up by AI for whatever use they can make of it. That I think that we can't put that genie back in the bottle. I mean, that's a fact. The copyright laws, as you say.
Actually, I wanted to say I also did the same. I wrote to AI. I said, use Selena style and make a cartoon. And actually, I didn't laugh. I feel like the most important thing is the idea. Like, you have to find, like, we read news for how long, and to find an angle, to find a vocal point, to find a paradox, to make the cartoon kind of like either funny or humorous, or that can touch people, or that can stir up a discussion. But so far I think AI still couldn't do it.
Plus, when I tried it and I asked the AI, can you do a cartoon in French cartoonist CAK style? The AI said, I don't know who that is. So,
So you want to be copyrighted so
True
that they know
story.
it. Yeah, give him their link.
Just to add a little bit. Here in the Philippines, well, at least there's an immediate reaction from the audience because you could see it. You know that it's a AI generated image. There's quick backlash. Even if not cartoons, even not particularly in cartoons. Let's say a typical company would make a brand photo montage or just various information drive, even from the government. Usually there would be painting contests, and then there's an immediate reaction of rejection from audience about AI generated images. But I think for now, yes, I agree. I think there's no immediate danger, at least for cartoonists, threat from AI. But of course, for other art uses, there's a clear and present danger. Especially there are particular what do you call this functions or needs that AI has been supplying immediately for conceptual artists, for 3D games and fantasy. Some of the works are good enough for publishing. There have been books. But again, the development is also rapid. Some of the tools that we use now, AI is integrated with that, like Photoshop. Just to do the heavy lifting, not really for us to conceptual, but just clean out bits or. So I think it's a continuing debate that we really have to be part of, since we are the art practitioners. We have to make sure that we are part of the discussion and not really shield us or isolate ourselves from it. Otherwise, the big tech giants would be the ones really reaping from this. So we really have to be vigilant again with this development.
And the AI is getting really sophisticated exponentially every day. So it's really important to talk about it. For our last question, we would like to invite Sir Verhel de Dios to ask his question. Wrapping up our discussion. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, by the way, listening to all of you. This is not something very profound. I just want to know if your cartoons still are wholly hand-drawn. Well, given the digital age that you can get drawing and making cartoons, I was wondering if your cartoons remain to be wholly hand-drawn, physical pen, physical ink, physical wash, physical everything, or are they partly digital?
Mine are fully digital. I only do hand-drawn in festivals like this, when I'm in face of people.
No, I mean drawing on screen. That's what you mean?
Yes.
You are drawing on screen.
That's what I mean.
But still hand-drawn.
Oh, yeah. With my hands.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
I tried with my mouth, but it didn't work.
I don't want to see that.
No,
of course.
Some people tend to put together something by importing things from.
That's what I was saying with the AI.
I'm just curious because I come from the Stone Age, so I do want to know about these things. Thank you.
Give you a little iPad demonstration afterwards, if you like. You can see how how it works.
I'd like that very much.
Well, you're having one right now. That's digital
Steph
drawing.
B over here.
No, but you're right. You can if you can't draw, you can ask the AI. You just tell the AI what kind of drawing you want, and and the AI will do it for you.
No, it's still fun. It's still fun drawing, even on the iPad. The drawing part of it is still fun. Yeah.
Selena, do you also do the same with like an iPad? Is that your
also
usual medium?
like fully iPad, Procreate, hand drawn. And actually, the three of us, we did the same. And actually, during lunch, we were like passionately discussing the stroke you use, which pen you use. Like,
Very
you
nerdy
can time lapse.
Too nerdy for me.
Like mechanicians with cars, it's the same with our iPads. You do this, you copy, send it to me, and it's
And Kag was like,
completely
you can just
boring for the
import.
rest of the audience.
All right, so that was a beautiful, wonderful, compelling discussion. I'm so honored to be part of this. Thank you also for your great questions. And now I would like to claim my moderator privilege by having a selfie with all of you, since I get to do it from here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And also with the audience, moderator privilege, 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, so thank you again, and really, really great discussion. And yes, we have many more in store for you for the event. And yes, very much, very happy to be part of this. All right. So handing it over to Alana, our host. Thank you.
Or maybe we can stay a bit on the stage so we could have a group photo
alright,
by our
okay.
photographers. Can we also call on the stage Roca, Zach, Ambassador Marie, and Steph B so that you're included in our big group photo here? You can go a little in the middle. Also, Miss Lenny. Oh, there. I thought you left. Just joking. Please stand anywhere. Please occupy the space. Take up space. Miss Lenny. Let's all hug like we're besties. We can scooch a little more. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one where we say PAK Dem on the count of 3. Someone taking a video? Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. PAK Dem! For legal purposes, please don't post that video. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's all give them a warm round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much again, Ms. Pia, and to our panelists for such an insightful and inspiring discussion. It's incredible to hear from individuals who are truly at the forefront of fighting disinformation and upholding press freedom in their countries, each in their own courageous and imaginative ways. So as we've seen, building a society rooted in thrush and accountability begins by igniting the imagination and creating spaces for critical thought. As we say in Dakila, the true revolution begins in the imagination. And in a world where short-form content dominates the digital landscape, cartoons have emerged as a powerful tool to inform, raise awareness, and challenge inequalities and corruption. So thank you so much to our panelists. And of course, thank you to our audience for your insightful questions. Okay, thank you so much for being here. And of course, before we close the program, we have something special. So again, we saw on the monitor earlier that Miss Steph has been drawing something on the screen. So if Miss Steph could come up here on stage and share with us her cartoon synthesis and insights of what she has drawn.
Well, thank you for the invitation from Rappler and Dakila. Well, my illustration is really just to honor the role of the editorial cartoonist, along with the broadcasters, the journalists, the reporters, truth seekers, and the fact checkers in defending, well, in the Filipino context, Juan, or the Pinoy community, from the evil forces of red tagging, online hate and lies, the trolls, the propagators of information, abusive politicians, and police harassment. All these forces preventing Juan from making well-informed decisions that could have an impact on their lives. So in a way, I see us as Pinoy's defenders, his champions. So there. It's an honor for, it's like an homage to all our hard work. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you so much, Ms. Steph B. Okay, so as we wrap up tonight's program, we want to leave you with a challenge. Don't worry, it's not a TikTok dance. Though much has been said here today, the conversation about press freedom, human rights, and democracy doesn't end here. We urge everyone, especially the artists and truth tellers among us, to do 3 things. To engage deeply with issues of human rights and freedom, reflecting on your role in strengthening our democracy. create new ways to push back against harmful narratives, because the fight against disinformation needs to reach every corner of society, whether it's in schools, organizations, communities, work, and beyond. And lastly, we encourage you to please collaborate. Collaborate with others who are committed to upholding truth, defending human rights, and protecting democracy. The Vista Human Rights Festival is currently ongoing in several cities across the country, in Metro Manila, Rizal, Cagayan, Laguna, Iloilo, Bacolod, Dumaguete, Cebu, and Cagayan de Oro. And it runs until October 6th. So we hope to see you at our remaining events. So you can see more information about our events on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. Again, this has been Alon from Dakila, and then thank you and have a great evening.